Okay, you guys ready for the run-through for our Kickstarter pitch? You have the latest script?
No need for my script. I am off book, as we say in the theater.
Tom, I like that pugnacious energy. We need that confidence if we're gonna crowdfund World War Space, my thrilling sequel to Earth vs. Soup.
No, Crow, I think you have the wrong script.
What? Joel Hodgson? Creator of Mystery Science Theater 3000?
Thanks, Tom. Hi, Jonah. You're absolutely right. Crow's way off base. We're not here to fund World War Space.
Rude.
We're here because it's been a couple of years since we got to make new episodes of Mystery Science Theater 3000. And even though a lot has changed since then, one thing hasn't. We still want to keep making new episodes.
Yeah, but even if we could afford to make new episodes, what would we do with them? Netflix didn't pick us up for another season.
Yeah, we're homeless again. And you know what? I'm tired of other people deciding if our show lives or dies. I want to do that.
Crow, you might be onto something. If we want MST3K to keep going long-term, maybe networks aren't the most reliable option. Maybe it should be up to the fans to decide how long we keep going.
It sounds good, but the fans don't run a network. Do they?
No, but think about it. Technology has come a long way in the last 5 years. Maybe this time, we don't need a network just to make more episodes. Maybe, if we work with our fans, we can fund and release them ourselves.
So, why not launch our own platform and premiere new episodes ourselves?
Yeah, we could even launch apps that let fans watch the new episodes on their phones, tablets, computers, TVs. We'll colonize all of cyberspace. This could be the third installment of my space trilogy.
If you think about it, it would be like having our own theater just for backers. And we'll call it the Gizmoplex.
Actually, this is pretty exciting. If we build the Gizmoplex, we could also plan special programs, host live premieres with Q&A, and it would give Misty's a perfect place to meet up and enjoy episodes and live events together.
Why, the possibilities are endless. I could host a festival of shorts.
A matinee of monsters.
A gaggle of cameras.
I like it, you guys. And with the Gizmoplex, we could go back to premiering new episodes as we finish making them, instead of waiting to release a whole season at once.
Making each new episode an event to look forward to.
Yeah, just like MST3K was back in the day.
Or WandaVision was last month.
So, Joel, how soon do you think we could start premiering new episodes?
Well, if the Kickstarter succeeds, we can start right away. And if everything goes well, we could probably start premiering new episodes this year. Maybe even this fall.
Okay. So if we want to make new episodes and build the Gizmoplex, how much do we need to raise?
Well, Crow, as usual, it's up to the fans to decide how much we can do, but the numbers look pretty good.
Did you figure for inflation? It's been 5 years since we did this.
We sure did. If we can raise at least $2 million before our Kickstarter ends, we'll be able to get back to work and make 3 brand new episodes.
And we'll be able to open the Gizmoplex, our very own virtual online theater.
Then, at $3.3 million, that goes up to 6 new episodes.
And we'll have enough to conquer cyberspace with new MST3K apps that bring our theater to phones, tablets, and TVs.
Then, at $4.4 million, we can make 9 new episodes.
And we can invite backers to the Gizmoplex for live monthly events, screenings, and episode premieres for at least a year.
And if we reach our final goal of $5.5 million, we'll be able to shoot an entire season of 12 new feature-length episodes.
But wait, what about short films? They deserve love too.
Tom, you're right. How about this? If we reach $5.5 million, we'll also riff 12 brand new short films, which we can release in between episodes.
Okay, Joel, this is sounding good. But since this is Kickstarter, we're gonna need some sweet rewards.
Yeah, my t-shirt from season 11 is getting pretty threadbare.
That's why if you take a look at our page, you'll see we've got a bunch of new rewards and events plans, plus some great COVID-safe virtual rewards.
Oh man, this is all great, but I still have a lot more questions. Like, what about...
Go! There are also a lot of answers on the Kickstarter page. Just go there.
You know I hate reading.
Who doesn't? That's why we're also going to be releasing more videos and sharing more details all month long.
It's as simple as that.
So join us.
Won't you?
Hey, that was a pretty good run through, you guys. So when do you want to record this? Because I forgot to press my record button. I just was right there, but yeah.
You know, I always say the 80s and the 90s was a great time for entertainment. And the reason is you had some great Saturday morning cartoons. You had some great TV shows. Anime was just starting to build up. I mean, we started getting Toonami in there in the 90s. You know, anime was being fully introduced, even though, you know, for myself who grew up in the 60s and 70s, you know, we had anime on a Spanish network and we saw it then, but you know, as soon as we got into the 80s and 90s, it exploded. And there were many other various shows, movies, fandoms were growing. You know, the comic book industry was flourishing so well. Dungeons and Dragons was a game to play with. The video game industry was just starting to build at this point. Technology was changing. The way we made movies was beginning to change. You know, for myself, who had just gotten into college at the point where we're about to talk about, this part of the era, which was the late 80s, had brought out one particular show. One thing I love is I love the cheesy movies, and you know where I'm getting to on this. Those B films, those old films, and some current films even, you could call them cheesy. And these were films that you could sit there and mock at. What if you got paid for it? What if you sat down and people watched you commenting on the film and making jokes at the screen? I mean, for years we've always known people, especially back in the 80s, we used to scream up at the screens when there was a bad screen out there. I mean, I tout back when someone yelled at Godzilla when the newer Godzilla film came out at that time period with the return of Raymond Burr, the second film that Raymond Burr did with the Godzilla. And people were yelling at the screen for some reason, because I saw it in the theater and it was the thing at the time. But what we didn't realize was there was a young gentleman at the time in Minneapolis, Minnesota, and he created a show on KTMA, which would be a classic series to date, which has spawned off some smaller groups that had, from actors that have worked on the show, that have created their own versions of it, and has made a nice, comfortable living and still continuing to do it. Riff Tracks is one of them. The Mads TV is the other one. But what I'm talking about is one of the greats, created by Joel Hodgson, Mystery Science Theater 3000. Now, those of you younger viewers who know of Mystery Science Theater 3000 only from the Netflix series probably hasn't seen any of the syndicated show, which aired both on Comedy Central and revived at the Sci-Fi Channel. But this was such a great series because it showed. I mean, it was a comedic genius to sit there in a sort of blackened theater, which their own version of a blackened theater, which it looked like a theater, but if you ever see the behind the scenes on how they did it, and watch a movie and just throw comedic jokes at the screen or make fun of the particular characters. Everything from Bela Lugosi straight on to Godzilla to some crazy alien movie we've never heard before. to a horror flick that just basically was just pure garbage at the time. But they've improved it. They've put them out on DVDs and Blu-rays. They've had stuff come out left and right. Like I said, some of the actors that have worked on this show branched off and continued riff tracking, as one company does, and does these riff track events at movie theaters throughout the country, and shown on multiple theaters throughout live. And you know, they've also won awards. Peabody, Emmy, nominated for the Emmy, Cable Ace Award, when we used to have Ace Awards. They were nominated there too. In '93, they had the Peabody Award. And then, you know, like I said, you've seen stuff like the Film Crew, riff tracks, all that's coming out. And then after a while, it was sort of like faded away for a little bit. And then suddenly, courtesy of Kickstarter, we saw the return back on Netflix, which, like I said, most of you might have seen. And they did very well. The first Kickstarter funding did a whole entire season, and then it was picked up by Netflix. And it was great to see them all together again, with more new crazy movies. And then they did the second season, which did very good. Well, like it happened in the past, all good things come to an end. But in this case, it isn't coming to an end. That's right. And I've said this before for many people who have been in this business, that have had shows that have lasted a long time. Build it yourself. If you are canceled, crowdfund it. People will come to you. Now, at the time when we recorded this on the 7th. Now, we generally, when we record episodes of pre-flight, we do it a day or two in advance, so we get enough time to edit this. At the time of this recording, when we made this recording, they're just about hitting $1 million. That means they've gotten 50% of the first pledge of the project. Because right now on Kickstarter, it's a 2 million goal, which they're going to blow that away. If they, in one day, they broke $1 million. I mean, this is going to be fantastic. I mean, to go into what it looks like, the Gizmodoplex, it looks like it's going to be like a paid app. You know, like a monthly app and stuff like that, that you'll be able to go watch Mystery Science Theater 3000. They'll probably upload the older episodes. You'll be able to probably see some of the older episodes on there. I don't know about the Netflix stuff. Netflix might be licensed to them, but there are a abundance amount. What is it? About 60 episodes? About 60 episodes plus in the syndication line. And, you know, you could see some of these on Hulu and a couple of other streaming sites, but not all of them. And, you know, you could pick your favorites. One of my favorites are the Godzilla ones, but unfortunately, Toho has grabbed licensing rights on that. So who knows if we'll ever see them again. Fortunately, I have a bit of a collection on VHS, which I recorded directly from Comedy Central. So whenever I buy a new VHS machine, I'll be able to see it again myself directly. Because I tell you, I recorded one of the Turkey Marathons, which for those of you who know, who have Shout TV and they watch Shout TV, they still do the marathons. They used to do a big one on Comedy Central, which lasted about 30 hours. Yeah, that's right, folks. You used to get 30 hours of Mystery Science Theater 3000 back in the day on Thanksgiving. Started on the Thanksgiving Eve and ran through the evening and into Thanksgiving Day. And I have most of it recorded on VHS. And yes, they did have the Godzilla ones on there as well. And, you know, they've made fun of everything here. Like I said, movies, they've made fun of old shorts, educational films, you know, and, the bits in between. You know, you had the likes of Tracy Blue, Josh Weinstein, Jim Mallon, Kevin Murphy, Frank Conniff, Mary Jo Peniff, Bill Corbett, Paul Chapin, Bridget Jones Nelson, Mike Nelson, Jonah Heston now, and Patton Oswalt, Felicia Day has joined on. You know, there's so many people that worked on this series. And you know, when you look back at, you know, from back then to now, with over 217 episodes, and don't forget, they had a feature film. Yes, we had Mystery Science Theater 3000, the movie. And that was a good one because it was one of my favorite movies, you know, that was put into this. And I love the gimmicks bits of the 1955 movie, This Island Earth, which they had all those great gimmicks in there. I mean, they even had some guys dress like the aliens from This Island Earth. I called it the invasion of the Buddy Epsons. Because technically it did look a little like Buddy Epson in a way because of all the makeup that they put on them. But then of course, I can't leave out Tom Servo, Crow T Robot, and Gypsy, and Cambot. I can't leave those guys out of it. Those guys, the puppets that were in this show, which was fantastic. You know, it's fun seeing some of the stuff they do. And one of the things I love from the early days, and you saw it on the Netflix ones, but it was really crazy in the early days of the Comedy Central days, were they call the inventions, the invention exchange, and I love the invention exchange. They did these crazy inventions. They threw it back and forth, and it was kind of crazy. But you got to remember, Joel Hodgson was a comedian, and he was known for a lot of these crazy gimmicks that he would do. He was on Saturday Night Live. I believe he had a stint on Saturday Night Live where he did a small bit called Agent J, which was really good, where he had these little trick gimmicks on there. And he also did Comedy Central allowed him to try a new concept called the TV Wheel. Now, if you're not familiar with the TV Wheel, most of the pilot was funded by HBO, and the pilot was picked up by Comedy Central. And it's basically what they did was they built a stage set, and it rotated like a wheel, and one camera was focused on the front of the wheel. So basically what happens is, as the wheel turns, another gimmick was being set up in the next stage sets before them. So you saw one gimmick, one comic routine going on. So it kind of gives you a forced perspective. And then it moved, and then it flipped to the next one, and then the next one, and then the next one. And it kept rotating. And as one bit was over, it was broken down immediately and built into another bit. And it was kind of pretty fun to do. I mean, I'm surprised it never got a slot on Comedy Central, but I guess it was new at the time. And that's the thing about Joel Hodgson. He gets all these things in his mind, and he's able to build them out and do them. And that's why Mystery Science Theater 3000 was a great show, because he had a great crew with him. You know, he had great ideas. The whole cast had great ideas, and it was always a popular series. Now, in the past, I've done episode here, there, what they should be doing as far as what they should be riffing, like, for example, the KTMA era, there was one particular one that's sort of missing. They only shot a bit of it, and that was the green slime, and I've always said they should do a full green slime today. Because the KTMA era, there are very few places you can see this, and mostly it's on YouTube. And I mean, hey, listen, it was low budget. The quality is not that great. There's a lot of what they call video dropout. Sometimes the audio gets a little wonky. But you see the beginning of the show. I mean, it is really, back then, it was really well done. And that was 88 to 89 era there. And then Comedy Central picked them up from there on. And then the money came in just a bit. Of course, storylines changed on it. Bits, changes in the characters. Joel Hodgson left the series, replaced by Mike Nelson. You know, basically Frank Conniff left also. Then, you know, they start Dr. Forrester. You know, as we're sitting here, I'm just watching, you know, as I'm speaking to you, my viewers on there, I'm just watching it just hit that $1 million goal. And like I said, they reached 5 million. You're going to get about 24 episodes. I mean, that is fantastic. That is fantastic. But getting back to the different eras, after the cancellation in 96, Sci-Fi Channel decided to pick it up for a couple of years. That's the 97 and 99, which they went in a weird direction on there. They added some unusual characters like Brain Guy and the Planet of the Apes, one of the characters of Planet of the Apes, who we like to call Professor Bobo. And they did some really crazy. I mean, they had some great. I mean, some of the stuff like Screaming Skull, Danger Diabolic, Merlin's Shop of Mystical Wonders, are some of the great stuff that they brought in that era. And then, of course, after the cancellation, it was a very long time. We're talking about 17 years, about 17, 18 years. And then you had the new Kickstarter funding in 2010. They started then, and they were able to raise millions. I mean, they raised a couple million for the first Kickstarter campaign. And like I said, we're already getting to the first 50% of it on the 7th of April. So what will it be by the time we get there? We'll have an update. We will put a quick video update on Man Man with the Show on Tuesday to let you know how far we've gone. Or you can go, we're going to leave also below the link to the Kickstarter campaign. Because you my viewers, you can go there, give them some money. It's not much, starts about a couple bucks, I think $10, I think, on there. And I think it goes up over $150 and plus on there. But they're giving some great stuff. I mean, some of the stuff that's on here that they're going to be giving. Let me go through it real quick 1 second. They're giving like free couple of months of. And they're calling it Gizmodoplex. That's the other thing, is the app is going to be called Gizmodoplex. They're giving like 3-month passes, 6-month passes, year passes on the rewards. They're giving away T-shirts, stickers. Then there's a Mystery Science Theater home kit, which supposedly it will have digital backgrounds and avatars for video chatting needs. I think there's also a concession box pack that they'll be giving away on one of them, which will include popcorn and a reusable drink cup, so you can put your drink in. On the larger ones, it's T-shirt, like I said, T-shirts and some good old stuff on there. And of course, obviously, they'll give you a thank you in the end credits, which they've always done. And then they are giving some downloadables, which you'll be able to download some of the episodes. Oh, I didn't even notice. I'm sorry. They go up to 800, 1,000. 1,000, they'll send you a video on 1,200, 4,000. 5,000 more gets you a, looking at it, a associate producer's credit. It's good to see that they're doing something like this. And I've said this to many times on many different shows episodes of Man with the Show. I've always, we've always said, if they don't want us, if they don't want our shows, if they don't want our comic books, the things that we want, we'll do it ourselves. We'll do it ourselves. And you've seen this, between Kickstarter and Indiegogo. You've seen the indie comics grow at a rapid rate. Independent video games have been growing. To give another tout on there, remember, there was another TV show that got its start on sort of a revival as well. Veronica Mars and also the web series Critical Role both scored over 5 million. So it can be done. I mean, stuff like this can be done. And this shows off to these people that just don't want to touch these shows and say, well, okay, we did it. We were okay with it. We don't think that you're based on it. Fine, okay, we'll go elsewhere. This is the age of the internet. We can go elsewhere. Like everybody goes to YouTube these days. You, my viewers, you're watching this on various social media platforms, and I thank you for that. Because there was a time we had hard times getting this classification of show produced back in the 80s. We were on public access. We had free reign on there. But there was always obstacles in our way, whether it was studio, financing. These days, it's a lot cheaper to produce, edit. Like I said, we're still trying to put a staff together. We have not dropped out that we're not going to have a staff. We're going to. And we may be close to some very soon. Let's see how things go. We have some interviews that will be coming up, and some other people we're talking with right now. Because one thing about these shows, that it is a task, and for a show like Mystery Science Theater 3000, that they're passionate. They're very passionate in what they do. And you've seen it on the outskirts of all these. I mean, grab a watch. If you haven't seen Mystery Science 3000, why haven't you first? And two, I mean, if you want to start somewhere, look for the older episodes. The new ones are fine. They're great and stuff like that. But it's the old episodes that grabs you. And they're fun. They're really fun. Not to say the newer ones are not fun, but these are fantastic. I mean, Shout TV happens to be one of the big ones that out there that constantly has their product always listed there. Also, Pluto TV has both a Rift Tracks channel and a Mystery Science Theater 3000 channel that runs 24 hours a day. Now, you may say to yourself, well, will we lose those on there? I don't know. It's hard to say. Probably might still have them. This is going to take a time. Now, according to Joel Hodgson on this, and you saw this, as soon as they reach their goals, some of their early goals, they're going right into production. And these shows are going to be pumped out as soon as they're out of editing and ready to go. They're going to do like a preview day, and they're going to run it and play it as much as they can get out of it. And that's what's good. We don't have to wait for 24 episodes to get done, 12, 24, however many they want to do in the end. We won't have to wait for that. The thing was with the Netflix, we had to wait for all the episodes to be done, which I can understand. One thing about Netflix is that they are a popular site when it comes to binging. Most people don't realize that. And you may say, so, well, no, come on. I said, yeah, it is. It is. It's the reason why they don't do simulcast. They are testing simulcast in Japan with the animes there, but I don't think that overall we're not going to see that much simulcast on Netflix. They could hold back the episodes 1-to-1, but they do very well. I mean, all you gotta do is look at the trends on their sites. There are other sites that track them, and basically they go through the roof. I mean, they go straight through the roof when it comes to some of the programming, including the anime stuff, which is it's amazing how much, even though it's already played and it's on the high seas and stuff like that, still on the high seas, and it still gets the amount of viewers that it does. Now, what I'm going to do, normally I would give you a top 10 overall or top 5 or whatever it is. I'm going to give you 2 movies per season. I'm not including the Netflix stuff, so basically we'll leave the Netflix out of it. But I'm talking about the old days, starting from KTMLA all the way through the Sci-Fi Channel. Because those are the ones you want to see. And these are the ones that stand out for me. It may be different for you. Now, starting out with the KTMA series, there are 2 that do come out very well, and that's the Gamma versus Gaios, which we know that one. That's a real funny one. And then, of course, Mighty Jack. If you haven't seen Mighty Jack, it's it was a Japanese television show about the flying submarine at the time, as you would call it. It was really good. You have to love some of this stuff out there. Those are the 2 from that era. Now, season 1, man, there's a lot in here in season 1. There's so many, to tout back. But I have to put toward these, the 2 that stand out the most for me is The Robot versus the Aztec Mummy, which is, I think it was a Mexican horror flick, which also had the short from Radar Men on the Moon episode 1. And it was a crazy about search for treasure from a mummy, and there was a curse of the mummy. Evil scientists created a robot to fight the mummy, and you can figure the rest out. The other one, and oh man, this one, it could have gone down 2 ways, but it's still one of my favorites, is The Slime People, 1963, The Slime People. And it also had part 6 of Radar Men from the Moon. And it's about how Los Angeles was taken over by these reptilian type creatures. And they had like a fog that always showed up, that every time they're in the fog. And that one was pretty funny. I mean, some of the jokes in there's some jokes about Fabian, if you remember Fabian, for those of my mature viewers like me who know who that is. There were a lot of jokes on that episode, and a lot of weird sounds of the Slime People, and that was always really good to watch. Now, going into season 2, and there's a good amount in this one as well, but unfortunately these are 2 you cannot see unless you go the high seas, or if you happen to be someone who has a VHS version of it, and they both happen to be, both of these are from the same genre. It's Godzilla versus Megalon and Godzilla versus the Sea Monster. Now, there were no shorts on this one. These ran straight through. One of the best parts of the Megalon is they made a Jet Jaguar song. And the reason I bring up Jet Jaguar, you know that the new series that's coming out of Toho, the anime, will have a Jet Jaguar in it. It's a weirder version of Jet Jaguar, but it is a fighting Jet Jaguar that's in the newer series. To have a song about Jet Jaguar made in this episode was really, really good, especially with the subtitling underneath. Because, you had the Jet Jaguar song at the end of the movie, but then they put subtitles to it. And that was fun. And then, of course, going into season 3, the 2 that I choose in there, one is the Pod People, the 1983 movie out of Spain, France, about a young boy who basically finds a large egg, and it hatches into a mischievous alien, and a group of poachers and people are trying to find it, and gets in all this trouble, and it gets into that, comes that old famous line from the movie, "It stinks."
It stinks. It stinks.
It stinks. And it is one. It's a horrible movie. It is really one of the horrible. But to get it riffed like this made a great improvement to it. The other one, which is it is one of the great classic, and it has a short called Snow Thrills in it. And it is the 1956 It Conquered the World by Roger Corman, starring Peter Graves, Lee Van Cleef. And it has the most unusual ending, which basically it's a repetitive ending to this episode. And I'm not talking about the movie, I'm talking about the episode itself. It sort of rehashes the Peter Graves speech.
You learned almost too late that man is a feeling creature.
At the end of It Conquered the World. And you have to go out and go watch this to find out what I mean about this. Now, for season 4. Let's see what we got here. Season 4. Well, obviously, we have to throw one of these in. The 1964 Franco-Italian International Co-Production Hercules Against the Moon Men. And no, it's Alan Steele who plays this version of it.
Deep hurting. Deep hurting.
Yes, that's right. It's Alan Steele. And this has one of the most, how can I put this, tortures of any movie.
Sandstorm. Sandstorm.
And yeah, it's a tortured part, running back and forth in the middle of a sandstorm. And it's literally, it's insane. It's one of the most insane episodes. Next to the second one that is on this season, which is one of the number 1 favorites. It's always on everybody's top 5 list. Some of them at number 1. And it's number 1 on my listing as well. And supposedly out there's a sequel being made or pitched years later. And it's starring the actual actress that played the little girl, and now she's an adult. Of course, it's called Manos, the Hand of Fate, with the short Hired, which is the second part, Hired, which part 1 was on The Bride of the Monster, which is the episode prior to that. And if you haven't seen the Manos Hand of Fate, there are several versions of it, of the riff version. There's the Mystery Science Theater, and Riff Track has a standard one and a live Riff Tracks, which they do this. And all of them are fantastic to watch. It is a fantastic, with the great quirk characters that are in this movie. And not to go into the plot of it, it's not worth telling you the plot. Go see it. Just get a moment, catch it, because it's undescribable. And it's a horrible movie. It's horribly made, but it works with the riff tracks. It's well worth seeing. See, that's the one thing about this. Mystery Science Theater has brought forward movies that generally most people wouldn't even watch. They wouldn't even give the time of day to. I mean, some of the older stuff, yeah, some people went to watch it. In this day era where basically, we're watching on streaming apps, people will pass by these movies. Mystery Science Theater gave you that chance to watch it in their sphere of comedic genius. So it is a good way of doing that. So that was Manos, Hands of Fate. Now going into season 5. Now season 5 is going to be a bit of a split, even though we're going to give you 2. Season 5 happens to be the last season for Joel Hodgson, and he's replaced by Mike Nelson. And I'm going to give you the 2, but one from Joel Hodgson and one from Mike Nelson. Obviously, the one I'm going to give you from Joel Hodgson will be his last episode on the show. And it happens to be Mitchell. That's right. It's the 75 movie Mitchell, starring Joe Don Baker. And it's a wild. It's like sort of a Dirty Harry on acid, really, I would have to say. It happens to be really fun. And the back storyline on the Mitchell is basically, it's Joel Hodgson escaped from the Satellite of Love, which basically Gypsy is planning through the whole entire episode. So, you know, you have a little bit of this and that that's going on in the background, and then you have Mitchell going on. The movie that, the second movie on here, this one is a real weird one. You know, there's so many others I could have gave, but this is the one it just happens to be on there. It has the short Cheating on here. It's called The Wild World of Batwoman. Nothing to do with DC Comics. It's 1966. They said it's a comedy superhero, directed by Jerry Warren and Catherine Victor as Batwoman. It's just totally mindless insanity on this movie, but it is a great riff. It is one of the great riffs on there. I mean, the season 5 happens to be one of the best riff ones because they gave so much into season 5, and especially with the changeover, the change of guard from Hodgson to Nelson. It is some really good stuff on there. I mean, check out the whole 5th season, but Batwoman and Mitchell will be the 2 best, in my case, on there. Season 6. There's a whole mess we could do on here. But we're going to have to go with the Italian movies for the first one. Danger Death Ray, the Italian Euro spy starring Gordon Scott. Happens to be you could take a guess, it's the stealing of a death ray. And the shooting scenes on here are just, the fight scenes are just way over the top. And I'm talking way over the top insane. I mean, I don't know who put the choreography on here, but basically in any other regular film they should have been fired. But in the case of this kind of a classification, well worth the watch. The other one happens to be a favorite of mine. This genre is a favorite. I have a bunch of these on DVD and VHS. And this happens to be from Mexico. And it's one of my favorites, ongoing series that they have there. In fact, I don't know if they've made any new ones recently, but there are some in the newer range with the sons that have taken over the mantle of this, and that's Santos versus the Vampire Women. That's right, wrestling meets vampires. That's right. There's some great, the Vampire Women is not the only one. They have one with the werewolf, Frankenstein, the mummy. There's all variations of this. It's always the same character. It's a wrestler by the name of Santos, and basically on the title line, you'll find this as Samson versus the Vampire Women. But it's actually Santo. I'm Spanish, and that's the original translation of it. But, yeah, he's a wrestler that basically, you get a wrestling match in there, and then he goes to visit a friend, and the friend is always in trouble. And in this case, the wrestler basically has to fight off vampires from trying to kidnap this woman who want, of course, obviously to drink her blood. And this happens to be the last episode for Frank Conniff. He leaves the series after this one. It's his last, this, I love how they brought him off on this one. This is when they start to do, bring in other characters to the show. Pearl Forrester becomes a regular on this. You start to see the changes, especially as you're going into season 7. Now, in season 7, which happens to be the shortest season, it's only 6 episodes. But I'm still going to give you 2. One, I think it's well worth. It's one of the great horror movies of all time, and that's The Incredible Melting Man. And that one is 1977, written and directed by William Sass. It's about an astronaut comes back from Earth. He's exposed to radiation and he begins to melt and becomes this violent monster. Yes, how much can we riff on that? But it is a classic. I mean, it works with and without the tracks. It's a B movie. It's a great B movie. It's always well worth it. The other one is another one that works it with and without, and it's also, and this happens to be the last episode with Tracy Blue as Professor Forrester, and it is the last, and this is why we had a short season on this, it's the last episode on Comedy Central. And that is Laser Blast, 1978 science fiction about a kid who finds a weapon, and the weapon starts to take over his mind and becomes this mindless zombie to this weapon and starts blowing everything up. Still a great B movie. Special appearances by Roddy McDowall in this. It's a great movie with and without the riff tracks. But hey, listen, watch the riff track. It's always going to be a funny way to watch it. Then, of course, in 1996, you had This Island Earth. That split it up in between. That's the 1955 movie. We said that before. That was sort of the break in between. Then we get into season 8. And there are a lot of changes to this. Bill Corbett becomes Crow T. Robot on this. It's the first appearance of Professor. This season you had Professor Bobo. Pearl Forrester takes over as the main lead, the evil scientist lead. And there are a lot of changes that go on. And you see this, the storyline changes. There's a time segment and all that. And then there's the return back to Earth afterwards. There's a whole segment on here that's going from one to another as far as this series. The 2 here that for this season, it's got to go to one, which happens to be a Toei production, Japan, Prince of Space, or the Chicken Man from Mars, whatever you want to call it on here. This is a great, it's part of a superhero TV series from Toei Films, which ran for about a year, total 49 episodes. This happened to be one of them. Prince of Space is fantastic. It's well worth the watch. It is very funny. There is another Toei one, which is Invasion of the Neptune Men. That's another one in there. But the second one I want to mention on here, and some people do know this one, and it is a great cult one, is the Space Mutiny with Reb Brown and Cameron Mitchell and John Philip Law. I mean, talk about a movie that basically, when you rip certain things off as far as special effects, I mean, hell, they ripped off a crap load of stuff from Battlestar Galactica for this movie. And Reb Brown, what can you say with Reb Brown and some of the other characters in this movie? Oh, it's another one that you just don't want to describe it. You got to see it. It's very important you see this. If any of all the ones that are on this list, besides Manos Hand of Fate and Space Mutiny, those are the 2 ones you got to see. Because Space Mutiny is just totally way over the top for a movie. And the riff is perfect on this. All right, the 2 for season 9. it's got to go to Puma Man, the Italian movie about a guy with special powers. Start it with Donald Pleasant as being the villain in this. And Donald Pleasant's always a good villain in these movies. You remember, this is the guy who played Blofeld in one of the James Bond movies. You Only Live Twice. Yeah, You Only Live Twice. That's the one. And like I said, this is Italian. Italian superheroes, over the top. Always known for years on that. But the second movie is the one to really focus on. It's the 1996 movie Werewolf. This is a total insane horror film starring the younger brother of Martin Sheen, Joel Estevez. I have to laugh at that. I have to go back and watch this. I really, now that we're talking about this, I do have to go back and watch this movie. Because it is just insane. No, let's not call it insane. Just bat shit crazy. Just total batshit crazy. Let's call it in that Saturday. So it's Puma Man for season 9 and Werewolf. Those two on there. Even though there's some other good up there. Well, we're coming down to the end of the line here soon here. So in the season 10 category, this happens to be the last of technically the older series. Before the break in between, where basically the series is no longer around. And then the Kickstarter campaign starts up. This season, there's a lot of good ones in here. There are really a lot of good ones. I mean, the whole 10 seasons were really good. This was in 99 where this ended. But let's put this in the two categories in here. The Blood Waters of Dr. Z. Or Zat. Some people call it Zat. The Blood Waters Dr. Z. It is a mad scientist film from the 70s. They're not so known people in the movie. It's also known as Attack of the Swamp Creatures, was also known as this movie. It's also been cited as one of the worst movies ever made. Period. The creature effects on here are just batshit insane. I love saying that now, batshit insane. Batshit insane. The plot line is just, it's hard to stomach, but the riffs make it right on target. Now, the last one for this whole series, and it could have been down to 4 here, and it has to be Diabolic. Danger Diabolic, the 68 Italian comic book. Like I said, comic book superheroes! It is a fantastic comic hero series. It is fantastic. It's done by Angela and Luciana Gusani. The cast itself is just... John Philip Law is in this, if you know him from Barbarella. Marissa Mel, and there's a couple other people. There's no one really major in there unless you know the Italian film genre. The funny part about this, the movie is directed by Mario Bava. You know him from his films, and it was produced also by Dino De Laurentiis. You know his movies as well. So this is one to catch. I mean, really one to catch under a riff, because it's an insane movie, and it's well worth the watch. It's really well worth the watch. So while we were recording this, they've already broke their $1 million mark. Like I said, by Tuesday next week, we'll give you their totals then. And like I said, we left the link below for you guys if you want to pledge a goal to them. Like I said, this is going to go quick. It's going to go very quick as far as back. I mean, they have over 5,000 backers now. and to reach over $1 million, and it's just still growing. And and you gotta love these guys. I mean, they're fantastic. So before we go, let's find out what's on your minds. Let's check out what is on your minds right now. So let's see what you have in your thought process. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Let's see what you have to say this week. Now, some of these we're trying to catch up. So some of these comments are from a little bit, but now we're going to catch up with everybody very soon. And we welcome back Vegas Mark 725, he loves to comment on our show. He must love our programming. And that is talking about the Buck Rogers remake Legal Troubles. Too much cheesiness hasn't aged well. Either reboot or don't touch it at all. Millennials and Gen Zs don't want to watch antenna TV, much less METV, which is aimed at dying demographics anyway. Baby boomers and old Gen Xers can only lend their support for so long. Vegas, I gotta disagree. Every day there is a new article. I mean, the latest article I saw was how classic comedies are now on the top of the Nielsen ratings right now currently. And that's not including Friends and stuff like that. I'm talking about going all the way back to Black and White, Dick Van Dyke, I Love Lucy. People want more. They want more. With the acquisition of Tubi TV right now, and I know some people say, well, they're going to start charging. Fine, they're going to start charging. But if they're going to give you the program that you want, and a lot of it's classic programming, you're seeing a lot of classic shows getting picked up now. Now, if it lasts 5 years, it lasts 10 years, that's fine. It's now. But the thing about it is, the Buck Rogers, I agree, don't touch it at all. Leave it the way it is. You want to touch another IP, there's plenty. Create your own. Create your own new IP. That's the problem. In another episode that I had back on Thursday this past week, we talk how, I showed a clip from Young Ripper, how a lot of these comic book companies and Warner Brothers, stuff like that, they're all creatively bankrupt. They don't have no new ideas. But yet, the Japanese are popping out mangas left and right and anime series, 2021 to 2022 is going to be a big year for anime. And with all the new deals that are coming across the boards, the board is changing. It's changing. No matter what you think, it's going to change. Good, bad, ugly, better. Some things are going to change, and it's going to be for the better. And the thing about it is, Hollywood's got to freaking just let everybody go. Let it die out. Start fresh new. Because the politics don't work in this crap anymore. It doesn't. Nobody wants it. Nobody wants this, the way things are changing and stuff like that. They want none of it. They want just good stories. Plain and simple, good stories. Vegas Mark, thank you again. Thank you for continuing to support the show. Thank you very much. Arkham West talks about the time Sega had laid off about 650 workers. This was back a bit. I wish Xbox to buy Sega and Konami. Well, Arkham West, I got to tell you, the rumors are out right now. I would not be surprised. We're April, June, July, maybe sooner. One of those or both will be under Microsoft's banner. Microsoft is doing a lot more toward the Japanese market than as Sony is pulling out of the Japanese market. Whether that's a good thing, a bad thing, for Sony, it's a horrible thing to do because basically they're losing out. Their Japanese players made their money. I know the West is going to make you a lot of money, but hey, listen, you got to get it from both ends. You can't sit there and say, screw them. I'll make my money. And that's the same thing that's happening in Hollywood. They're saying, like, forget the fans. You know, let's get the small 1%ers that just basically always complain about, you know, this, and that, and it'll keep us straight. But they're not your players. They're not your players at all. So thank you, Arkham West. Savage Gamer. And he talks about the Jetsons. They ought to come out with all new cartoons, METV channel. Well, they wouldn't be a classics channel. You have to remember, MeTV caters, and like Vegas Mart says, to a different demographic. You know, they say that the millennials and Gen Zers are not watching, but I think they're starting to watch. But basically, they are a classics channel. Same thing with Antenna TV. Same thing with a couple other movies, Heroes and Icons. Those are all classics channels. We always need a classics channels. One thing is I'm in 1 or 2 groups on the Svengoolie, and also Turner Movie Classics is the other one that on there. And there's tons of people talking about classic movies all the time. To bring new programming on there, not worth it. There's tons of old. There's a back catalog decades long. Decades. And not only Western stuff, there's some Eastern stuff that could bring in and translate or already translate stuff from the UK as well. There's plenty of stuff out there to last us a long time. Savage Gamer, thank you very much. Mark Baker, who's a fan of Saturday morning cartoons. I have one major gripe with MTV Saturday morning block. When they sue This Is It intro, a very small part of the ID is trimmed out before the rest of the characters can start marching on the stage. It's not a major flaw, but I want to point that out. Mark, thanks for mentioning that. Sometimes, let me tell you something. Sometimes, and this goes into history, as they say, the tapes, the videotapes or stuff like that, that some of the companies get is whatever they that is given to them by the original rights holder. Now, if they happen to be in public domain, you get what you get. Now, as far as the Warner Brothers stuff, you're getting the stuff from Warner Brothers. They're going to give you old stuff. Sometimes some of the stuff has edits in it because basically it might have damage on the edge of the tape. Sometimes some of the stuff has to be remastered. That costs money to restore it completely. You might be able to restore a portion of it and the cartoon, or it might be just a glitch. It could be just a glitch on there that's happening on the broadcast. You might, I haven't seen this directly. I'm gonna have to try to catch it when it does air that way. But it could be also a satellite glitch too. You might just think of it as it being a jump cut, but actually it's also the satellite just jumping ahead because there might be a signal issue. And at that time of the day, it could be. But that's, neither here or there. It happens, But like I said, stuff that old, it's going to happen that way. It's, it's whatever you get from the title holder, the IP commander. They can give you the worst copy of a movie ever. Just peruse anything that's under public domain. The perfect example, Night of the Living Dead. How many copies are there out there as far as masters? There's tons of them out there. And all of them are not in great condition. There's maybe about 3 of them that are in good condition. One of them was used for the 4K transfer. And the rest are just, because they made a mistake on the copyright. That was one of the big things. And that's the other thing, when you look at one perspective, is was it copyrighted correctly? And if it wasn't, no money was spent to, repair or keep the IP in order. It happens. Thanks again, Mark Baker. We love weather entertainment, and that's more METV. That's the Tune In With Me. I would rather watch Meat Canyon's Bugs Bunny parody than the live action bits. For those of you who don't know who Meat Canyon on there, take a moment and go over to YouTube and type it on there. It's a person who sort of reanimates, revisions the Bugs Bunny cartoons in a weird way. And it's pretty good, pretty weird. But I can understand where Weather Entertainment is saying they don't like. And like I said, I've had a lot of people in my comments line saying they don't like the host portions of the Tune In With Me. Now, and I said this before, understand the reason they're doing this, they're trying to grab a new generation of kids. And that's what they're looking for. They're trying to appease a new generation of youths to get them into these cartoons so they would last another couple more decades. You got to remember, there are people out there that don't want us seeing these anymore. They're already seen the issue with the Pepe Le Pew issue with Space Jam 2, that he's been erased because they called him a little rapey. But meanwhile, they used the guys from Clockwork Orange in the background, and they didn't, they did not think about what they were doing. And then, of course, they took away Elmer's gun. They did this. They did that. They tried to get rid of Speedy Gonzalez, but hey, listen, I'm Hispanic, and I know a bunch of my Hispanics out there saying, "What's wrong with Speedy Gonzalez? He's a hero. He's always getting away from the English-speaking cat." Thank you again, Weather Entertainment. Here we are getting a little closer here. The Harry channel, and this is a more recent video. The Boondocks reboot pushed to 2022. He says, "I knew this would happen." It was written on the walls, Harry. It was written on the walls. I've had so many people criticize me online when the couple of shows, and I'll tell you, my second best video on this channel happens to be talking about the Boondocks, the original video. And I said, if you don't see it by this time period, you're not going to see it anytime this year or anytime soon. They keep pushing it back. Why are they pushing it back? I mean, there's so many lines up. And I bring up High Guardian Spice. And you might say, well, that's a different company. No, it's not a different company. AT&T Warner owns HBO Max, Crunchyroll. Well, till the deal is done, because the DOJ is investigating them, Crunchyroll is still owned by AT&T Warner. A lot of stuff has gone missing. A lot of stuff has been canceled. Courage the Cowardly Dog reboot. Venture Brothers has been canceled. High Guardian Spice has disappeared. Boondocks, there is not a single sign. There's not even a minute of footage. All we've gotten is a couple of drawings, a couple of samples. We haven't even gotten a teaser trailer. So what is truly going on with this IP? I mean, with this show? Nobody's talking. Nobody's really talking. Harry, thank you again for commenting. Vegas Mark 725 again. Wait till Tubi starts charging. It's inevitable. It's inevitable. Even if they go to the Peacock route with a free tier. Mark, yeah, it's going to happen. It's bound to happen. When? May not be immediately. You got to remember, they work on advertisement. It's like YouTube. They make a lot of money from advertisers. They are slowly growing. They're about, I think they got to be at 40 million subscribers by now. I know last year it was about 30. There were about 30 million subscribers last year, at the end of last year. You have to put into perspective, if advertisers are paying money to post their ads on your movies and TV series on your app, you're getting money from that. Now you got to remember also, Rupert Murdoch owns Tubi TV now. There's a lot of money behind Tubi right now. Rupert wants, or Mr. Murdoch, he wants to build a better app. And people didn't see this coming. He pulled a Disney on everybody. It's like when Disney bought the land in Florida, didn't buy it under his name, and created, what you are, Walt Disney World. Rupert is creating a new Fox network. Now, it's not going to be called Fox Network. It'll probably stay as 2B. He wants to do, he's already made a deal with Toei. He's already making other deals. He wants to do new programming as well. He wants to get exclusives. There's so much that he wants to do. Now, if he starts to charge on there and he puts out a good product, it's well worth the money. But it's well worth it now as it being free. Start using it free. It's a great way. I know, hey, it's going to eventually, but, look at Peacock, look at Paramount Plus, how they're not doing well. Peacock is pissing off the wrestling fans by erasing matches off their site because they deem it offensive. And we're getting an update on that as well. There's a couple of changes on there. We're going to bring that on the next week on Madman with the Show, including a response from Jim Cornette, who was part of Smoky Mountain Wrestling, who gave his 2 cents on what happened. How's he feel about the changes at Peacock with the WWE? You have all these sites, HBO Max is another one. They're not doing so great. If Tubi builds up very well, they could overtake it. Do you hear too much from Apple TV? Not really. The ones you hear from is Netflix, Hulu, somewhat Disney Plus, and then all the other ones come underneath it. Tubi is starting to move up in those ranks, and that's starting to scare some people. So we'll see in the future, see what happens on that Vegas mark. Cyboy Koopa Entertainment. This intro is perfect. That was the intro that we did on the Boondocks reboot. Do catch it. We did make a real nice joke from an episode that sort of tells you how we feel about what's going on. Thank you again, Koopa Entertainment. Brian Hayes mentions on the Dark Shadows, CW backed out. That was on the Dark Shadows thing. Yeah. There were people out there that are going to say, and I'm going to tell you right now, there are fans out there that would have criticized this to hell. CW would have not done a good job on it, plain and simple. And they knew they saw the writing on the wall when it came to Dark Shadows. The money was not going to be there for it, and they already saw what happened with the Johnny Depp version. That's one group. If you think that the Star Wars, the Marvel, DC fandoms are intense when it comes to criticism of the IPs, you should see the Dark Shadow fans. The Dark Shadow fans, those are the ones that just literally they come out of the darkness and they give their 2 cents. And they do. And a lot of them are soap opera fans. And that's the ones that really, really do watch the CW shows on there. There's a lot of soap opera fans, and there's not that many soap operas left. It's mostly what CW is putting out there and a couple other networks. Thanks again, Brian Hayes. Bebob. The host and his friends are terrible. I changed the channel and then turned back later to fast forward only to the cartoons. The channel needs to get rid of the hosts and the show cartoons, or get hosts that they were years ago. Sally Star, Captain Noah. Bebob. I know a lot of people don't like that. They don't like to tune in with me. Most of the other people from the old days are either dead or gone. No longer with us. They're in another dimension, as they say. And there are plenty others that could take the place. But like I said, you have to remember, we're adults. This was written for kids. It's written for children, nostalgically, hoping that they would bring in on there, and hopefully some adults will like it. And I know there are some adults that do like it, but I've been getting a lot that just totally disliked it. So everyone, thank you very much for commenting. We're going to get more of your comments in future weeks. As we're turning back on here, I was looking back. We're about $1,140,000 in on the Kickstarter, and like I said, on the Mystery Science Theater. So please give if you want to below. It's in the description. And thank you for tuning in. No, thank you for those of you who have been watching. And you know, and I'm talking about the Mystery Science Theater fans. Thank you for those guys who've been watching, keeping an eye out all the time, and those who have given money into this. You know, we need shows like this back in our rotations again. You know, we need those laughs. We really truly do. So remember, subscribe, like, share. Be sure to give us your comments on how you feel, because there's a lot going on. There's a much spear going on as we get ready for the weekend. And we got to ask ourselves, we got the Saturday morning cartoons, and then we got Sci-Fi Saturday night. So what is on Svengoolie this week?
This week on Svengoolie...
I've been 6'1" since I was 17.
About that?
The incredible shrinking man keeps getting smaller.
It's the 1957 sci-fi classic, The Incredible Shrinking Man. Saturday at 8, 7 Central on METV.
That's right, one of my favorites, The Incredible Shrinking Man. Such a good movie. Such a really, really good movie, you know, for the time period. And even it works today. I mean, there was a remake, a sort of remake called The Incredible Shrinking Woman, which was also really good. That starred Lily Tomlin. Great comedy on that one. Let me tell you something. Grant Williams, Randy Stewart, April Kent, Paul Langson, Raymond Bailey, Billy Curtis, and of course Orangey as Butch the Cat. And the reason I mentioned the cat is because, one, I love cats, and cat is a major plot of the movie. If you haven't seen it, do catch this. 8 p.m. Eastern on your local METV station. If you don't get METV on your cable service, plug in an antenna. You'll find it on there. Please note, and you can look this up on, there's a YouTube channel called The Antenna Man. If you're having problems getting it on your local antenna, there have been some frequency changes. There's some changes coming. Ion TV has merged with another company, and there are some other companies that are making some switches all over the place. So some of your cable channels have been shuffled around. Mostly this affects the aerial band of broadcast television. In other words, what you can get on your antennas. So there have been some changes. Some of them have gone to a lower frequency. In other words, you need either a more powerful antenna or antenna with a greater range. But Antenna Man, best guy to, he'll let you know what to get, how to get your METV back on there. He gives the best information. So do check it out. So until next time, as we wrap it up, we're almost about to hit, well, hopefully we'll be hitting the midnight hour soon. That'll be Saturday. Of course, this is why the show is called Saturday Pre-Flight. We'll get into the Saturday with the cartoons and Svengoolie and all that, and get through the weekend. So once again, thank you for tuning in. Enjoy your weekend. We'll be back on Man with the Show during the week, and another edition of Saturday Pre-Flight Fridays here on YouTube and Minds, other social media sites will get this later in the morning. As we get into Saturday morning, you'll see it on others like BitChute and one other. So until next time, thank you for tuning in. Keep those comments rolling in, and bye-bye now.
It has to come from inside. The man himself.